Welcome back. I'd wait a motion to close the non-public and to seal the minutes of the non-public.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, we have on Zoom, so we're going to have to
Oh.
do roll call votes or a roll call vote.
Assistant Mayor Kelly.
Here.
Oh, it's to
I
leave the
apologize.
non-public and to seal the minutes.
Oh, yes.
Yes, okay. Counselor Tabor.
Yes.
Counselor Denton.
Yes.
Counselor Moreau.
Yes.
Counselor Bagley.
Yes.
Counselor Lombardi.
Yes.
Okay. Counselor Blaylock.
Yes.
Counselor Cook.
Yes.
Mayor McCachran.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay, so welcome. Do we need to take roll for the public session or no? Oh, no, we took roll and then we went
took
into,
roll,
sorry.
yeah.
What we're going to do today is we're going to hear an update on the call that the city had with the GSA today. Then we'll have some, if there's questions to the council, then we'll have public comment. It's always tricky to have public comment when folks sign up before they know what we're going to say. So I would ask that everybody stand up and line up to get a sense of how many people we're going to have speak at public comment after the comments are done. We'll try to ballpark it to get it to 45 minutes. I appreciate that everybody is passionate about this issue and wants to find out. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to the city manager, who's going to walk through the meeting, and I think the city attorney as well.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think City Attorney Morrill is going to give the city's remarks.
Okay. So as everybody knows, we had a scheduled meeting with GSA via Zoom today, along with our development partner, Mr. Kane, and a number of his employees and construction partners. During that call, we provided information in regards to the status of our progress. That status is that over the last several weeks, we have been working extremely diligently with our development partner to work on the construction cost estimates and on the pro forma, meaning what do we expect for rents, what do we expect for costs, what's reasonable to expect for expenses in terms of tenants and what they put into their space called tenant fit-ups. And so all of those issues are part of a pro forma that governs the cost of construction and the contributions between the development partner and the city. We have not reached an agreement on those terms, despite our efforts. There was an adjustment to the cost of construction based upon a couple of different variations of the community plan. We do agree on those costs. However, we do not agree on a pro forma. And we had asked our development partner if they would consider profit sharing based upon the fact that the city is going to be contributing money to the project. We had asked that we be paid back as an equity partner, the same percentage off the profits. Our development partner has refused that request adamantly. One other part of the puzzle is the development agreement that we talked about at the last special meeting we had. In that development agreement, we were trying to get signed. It had termination rights. What happens to this arrangement if certain circumstances occur? At the last meeting, there was no agreement on that. But at 5 o'clock last night, we received a letter from our Mr. Kane's attorney indicating that they would sign the development agreement containing all of those termination rights. So there was progress made on that front, in addition to the construction costs and the design, but we have not made sufficient progress on the pro forma or on parts of the ground lease that would reflect revenue sharing and potential profit sharing. Without the ground lease agreement and the pro forma agreement, we cannot submit an application to the National Park Service. Those documents, an agreement on the terms of those documents is prerequisite. They have to be part of the application. So we advised the GSA of that. Two representatives of the GSA were on the Zoom call, along with a representative from the National Park Service. Their comments were essentially that they were not optimistic that the city, after this long period of time and all of the events that have occurred surrounding this project, given the fact that we were still hadn't agreed to some of the basic elements here, that we would be able to go forward. And Mr. Kelly indicated he could not be supportive of the program as he does not see a clear path forward. But he did not make a definitive statement to us in terms of where we go from here. He indicated that the GSA would be back in touch with the city early next week. So we will be talking to him then. And it's not anticipated that there will be any change in circumstances between now and then. But we'll wait and see and have that conversation with the GSA next week. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Any comments or questions from the council? Well, for public comment, again, if we could stand up, we can move on to public comment. And if we could stand up just so we get an idea of how many folks are going to speak on this.
And Your Honor, if you're on Zoom, can you please raise your virtual hand if you wish to speak? Thank you.
Okay, looks like less
Seven.
than 15, so 3 minutes. Please come up, just state your name, city, and look forward to hearing what you say.
Roy Halsell, 777 Middle Road, Portsmouth. Well, it looks like the taxpayers are going to get hurt on this. And yous are worse off than when you took over as city councilors. And you knew the termination you should have never canceled, because they've never been a partner. They've always been dictators to you. So I think that you people were wrong with what you did on when you were talking to the king anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy.
Thank you, Mayor, City Manager, City Council. Mary Lou McElwain, 259 South Street. We are mired in a money pit, and I think it is time to say enough. The article I read in this morning's Portsmouth Herald it's obscene. When I think about the taxpayers' money that has gone in, will continue to go in for many, many years, I just think we're really in the wrong direction, and I would hope that we have a definitive statement from the City Council saying no more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Lou.
Esther Kennedy, 41 Pickering Ave. First, I took a half-a-day vacation from work today to thank you. Last Monday night, I came forward and said that you had an illegal meeting. You weren't following the RSAs on the Saturday previous, and you had no public comment. Today, the meeting was appropriate, and I appreciate the fact that you're willing to have public comment. So I want to first say thank you. Second, moving forward, I did say in November of 2021 that we were giving you a gift. And unfortunately, there was so much animosity, people were not willing to receive that gift, and now we're back there again. I do hope that if we do not get a waiver, that we decide to buy the property outright, which I believe was the direction that the council was thinking of going at that point. It could be a beautiful, to understand the total public, it would be a beautiful city council down there with potentially elderly housing up here, or we just level the whole thing and have a beautiful park. That would be your pick. But I think maybe it's time to cut losses, say goodbye to our developing partner who has not been truthful now for 3 councils. 3. You are the 3rd. There was no agreement signed after the first council that was dealing with this. There was no agreement signed after the second council that was dealing with this. And now you're the 3rd. So I hope that we maybe don't go for the waiver and we just say, thank you for being part of this, but it's time to move on, and that we truly look at public benefit of that property. Remember, it was taken by the federal government, and let's give it back to the people, for the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther.
Peter Huda, 280 South Street. As I sit here and listen to the status update, the one big question that comes to my mind is, what's your next steps, Council? It's great to hear the status. As a resident, I would like to know where you are going to take us next. That wasn't given to us. That you know what your scenarios are now. Where are you going to take the citizens of Portsmouth? And what is going to be the cost on this? I spoke at the last meeting and I asked quite a few questions. I got an answer to one. I did not get an answer to what the percentage share of the partnership was. That makes a big difference, and how you're going to pay for it. That also makes a big difference. The other thing I'd like to bring to your attention is there seems to be a pattern here with our so-called partner. Of first it was the fault of the last council, now it's the fault of the city manager and our negotiator, and then we come back to the council. Does anybody notice a trend here where it's always on the city's side that something is wrong? Maybe it's time to walk away and let Mr. Kane go. Oh, and the threat of litigation, look closely at that, as there is no basis for that, again, like there wasn't last time. Thank you.
Thank you, Petra.
Hello, good day. Steve Beindoller, 120 Ridges Court in Portsmouth. I'm a little surprised we're back here again, and we, as people have said, we were here a month or 5 or 6 weeks ago, and every respondent, with the exception, I think, of Mr. Duffy, were not in favor of spending $150,000, and now we're deeper into a rabbit hole or a cesspool, depending how you look at it. I, right from the beginning, from the land lease and the last 2 councils ago, have seen Mr. Kane and his group as being mean-spirited, maybe a little bit too strong, uninterested in being a representative, a good community member, and a partner with the city. I think the council have been naive in how they've approached it. I go back to what your father said, Daglin, and said, zone it municipally, step up, take the gloves off, and if he wants to sue, $2 million would have been a nice way to spend, have 4,000 hours of legal expenses, and now that money's gone. We're getting further and further into this. I don't see a way out of it. I think you should fight fire with fire. If he wants to come forward, I would further naively somewhat suggest that you institute possibly a new ordinance in the city. If anyone's in litigation with the city or threatening litigation, they shouldn't come before city boards. There's no reason. There's a conflict of interest. There's no way he can come up and still should not be able to come up and still develop property if he's threatening to sue the city. Well, you're being dangled. You're spending our money frivolously, I believe. It's a dangerous precedent. I urge you to stop, back off, zone it to protect yourself, to protect us. There'll be another day, and if he has to justify money going forward in one lawsuit, go ahead and sue us. I believe we have deeper pockets. We had a white knight, a reasonable white knight in Mr. Binney. Bill's still around. Look at other options and walk away from this deal. It's a bad deal.
Thanks, Steve.
Good evening, actually, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor. Members of the City Council, Paige Trace, 27 Hancock Street. Mr. Mayor, I am sad. I applaud you for being transparent today. But way back when, that morning, that fateful morning, that some of us showed up here for something entirely different, and there was a meeting going on upstairs with Mr. Kane's car waiting outside and your station wagon in the parking lot. To say that there's been no transparency is putting it lightly. Past Councilor Kennedy is correct. We did give you a gift. Past Councilor Whalen fired the development partner because there were outs in those two documents. And what did you do? I don't blame you, sir, for reinventing, if you will, the development partner and the partnership between the city and the development partner. But you, sir, were one of the two people left who knew the most about this project, you and Councilor Tabor. And you gave that to the city manager. And I applaud the city manager for doing what she could do over the past year. But you gave the project and the settlement agreement that you signed in April to the city manager when you knew so much about it. Yes, it's your prerogative. You didn't have to do this. I understand that as mayor. But you needed to step up for the 22,000 residents in this town and help protect them. And maybe you thought you were. But what we have now, sir, is every single month the city manager duly gets up and says scattered darkness with intermittent lightness. And that's about what we get. And every member of the council here says nothing, asks no questions in public. And Councilor Cook, you and Councilor Blaylock were the two that were most vocal before you were sworn in. And you never ask a question, either of you, publicly about this. So I please ask you, you all know you now may get an out because Mr. Falvey called and said you could have it. Well, I hope you take that out. And I hope you're a little more transparent, as others have repeatedly asked you. And no more history lessons, Mr. Bagley. You don't get off lightly. Because
Thank you,
you
Paige.
don't know. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Peter Harris, 249 Islington Street. Thank you, City Councilors, for Mayor McCatcher, for having your meeting today and sharing the current update. I have two real concerns related to where we are today that I look to get explanation on. You had a settlement agreement last April and paid over $2 million to the developer, Redgate Kane, Michael Kane. Do we have any accounting and from a right-to-know perspective of what that amount consists of for the residents of Portsmouth? Why we spent, what that money consisted of for fees to the Kane Company, Redgate Kane? It seems significantly higher than the development costs work that they would have done, and that's a pretty large price tag. And I don't understand, lastly, my other question is, I don't understand how we made a settlement agreement last spring without the terms that you seem to have announced currently that you lack today, an out clause and some of the other pieces about profit sharing and so on. And I don't understand how a year went by and now those terms are being discussed. Thank you.
Peter?
Good afternoon, City Councilors. Good afternoon, Mayor McEachran. I'm kind of speechless. I don't know really what to say other than I fired Michael Caine at the end of the council term.
Peter, just name
My name is Peter Whale, and I live at 100 Gate Street here in Portsmouth. And I was the counselor along with the past council. We fired Michael Caine at the end of our term. And the reason why we fired him was that he was not living up to his side of the bargain. He was disruptive. He violated the development agreement, just about everything you could think of. He went on social media. He did it all. He called the project childish. I'm done with it. So we terminated him. This council brought him back. You brought him back, and you signed a settlement agreement which was so onerous for the residents of Portsmouth that several residents sued you in Superior Court on that settlement agreement, which left no out for the city and also left a 7.4% return for Mr. Caine on this project, which all of you should realize ties the residents of Portsmouth to millions of dollars a year for the 75-year term of the lease. It's crazy. It's obscene. I know you can't talk about it, but that's the big elephant in the room here. And I'm not sure how you walk that back. So, Mayor McEachran, I would urge you to take bold action now. Show some leadership. You were on the committee. You know what Michael Caine's about. You know how he negotiates. Jettison this partnership immediately. Stop the bleeding. The GSA may do it for you, but this council, you own it now. It's yours. Get rid of this partnership. Get a real partner that's going to partner with the city forever. This is a 75-year marriage. This pro forma, we don't even know as residents what's in the pro forma, what the lease agreement's going to be. Is it $10,000 a month like it was before? Which was crazy. It's time. The residents are telling you it's time. Let the building go, get rid of this partner, and move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
One hand on Zoom, Your Honor.
Is anybody else after Bill want to speak? Stand up because, all right, that's just from a time perspective, and then we have one hand on Zoom. The floor is yours, Bill.
Okay, thanks. Bill Downey, 67 Bow Street. Today I'm less interested in moving forward rather than back. To the city attorney, I would ask, is there any way we could get those specifics that you identified as far as the outs? We know we had in 2019, but it'd be really helpful to the citizens if we could get that sooner rather than later. Number two, if you could also clarify, in the event that the GSA passes on this option of the public-private, the mayor has said many times in the press that we would have first refusal. I was told that by very competent counsel for several years that was the case. But in the January 11th negotiation piece, it says in 2D that would go to auction. That's a significant difference. And so if you could kindly clarify that, that would be greatly appreciated. Most importantly, again, I'm looking to move forward as a community. I know there's been a lot of hurt feelings and bad blood. And I think that from what I'm hearing with tea leaves here, it sounds like the GSA is probably going to move on. I would also ask if we could get a sense of the timing. I know it's next week, but one of the most painful things that I think I can speak for a lot of people is the lack of transparency and timing. So if we could find out almost immediately what happened, it would be greatly appreciated, because I think I'm looking to move on myself personally. I'd love to see us have an opportunity to change the zoning to municipal, possibly buy it. cripple the market, we get it for 60% off. That's my hope. That's personal. But in the meantime, I thank you for this meeting. And City Attorney, if we could get that information, it'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Good afternoon, everyone. Patricia Bagley, 213 Pleasant. It's really hard to know what to say right now. I'm kind of emotional and I'm surprised. I'm surprised but not surprised that we got to this point with a developer who is a bully and he operates by threatening to litigate. And we knew that. I mean, he said the plan was unbuildable, financially not feasible. It was cartoonish. And we're still here talking about this. I'm mostly sad because I think we've had 3 mayors, 3 councils, 2 city attorneys, 2 city managers, and hundreds of residents involved in this project with hope. And we've been to many, many meetings. We've been to listening sessions. We have tried to contribute as much as we've been allowed to contribute with very little information. So that's pretty much all I have to say. I hope we end this. I hope we never have another development opportunity with Mr. Kane. He is not a good person to be in business with. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Pat. Next, Rick Beckstead, can you hear us, former mayor?
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Rick.
Okay. I don't know where to begin. Rick Beckstead, 1395 Islington Street. I, like many of the other speakers, are speechless. Not really sure what you're all planning on doing now, but moving forward, what I would ask is that the public is allowed to get the information that we are promised. Back in April, when you actually signed last year this false, as far as I'm concerned, agreement with Mr. Kane, who has been difficult from the beginning, you had said that you could justify the $2 million that you had paid him, and we were going to get numbers basically of his expenditures. Still to this day, we have not. If that was because of threat of litigation, not sure if still we're at a threat of litigation, if we're going to lose the building entirely. I'd like to see that be opened up for the public so that the public can actually weigh in on that. And then to Councilor Tabor and Mayor McEachran, you partook in a meeting in October of 2021, just before the election. And we had gone and asked as a council, which had never really been followed up on, to go and unseal the minutes of a meeting that took place and a council vote that took place. I'm not going to divulge what it was. I'm not going to divulge who said what. But I am going to say that that October meeting was a unanimous decision by the entire council of a 9-0 straw poll vote to take action. And I would like those minutes to be unsealed so the public, maybe even the councilors that may not even be aware of it today, had actually gone and taken place, because it is very much a shame that we stand where we are. We did what we did. Again, we gave you a gift. All you had to do was move forward. Mr. Kane is an unreasonable man, and he has been from the get-go. And unfortunately, we are where we are right now. And I know if there's any way possible, I think I know what's going to end up happening. Open market, Michael Kane is going to try to buy it and move forward without any of us and really give it to us. But those are my fears. So I would ask that at least Mayor McEachran, if those 2 requests could be granted sooner rather than later. I think both myself and the public would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. All right. It's not a public public hearing, so won't need to close it. But are there any other questions from the council? Councilor Denton.
I have a comment versus a question. So I'd like to start by thanking the public and the GSA for their patience through this process, and thank the staff for their hard work and efforts throughout this. Negotiations are a large part of my day job, and I can say with certainty that every city council that I have served on has worked in good faith to acquire this building through the process by submitting an application to the GSA. Now, the pro forma was essentially the ground rules of these negotiations, and without the ground rules, we could not come to an agreement, and we reached an impasse in good faith. And unfortunately, an application was not submitted by the deadline of today, despite all of our good faith efforts throughout the years. So again, I'd like to thank everyone while we await the GSA's decision on what the next steps are.
Any other comments? Councilor Blaylock?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll reaffirm Councilor Denton's comments. I just want to thank the city attorney, the city manager for all their hard work on this. Continue to work in good faith. I want to thank all the patients of the public. I know we've all been paying attention to this. We spent a lot of time and a lot of energy, and I appreciate that. But
Thanks, Councilor Blaylock. You know, this is to one of the, Bill Downey saying, you know, we'll try to schedule the meeting. This is the intent of this meeting. We knew that everybody was going to be focused on the meeting, the GSA, and to give the update. I think Pat's still here. I think Pat speaks for a lot of people, speaks in terms of the emotional amount of effort that's gone into this. I can't, it's hard to think that, you know, growing up, going to the post office as a kid, that I would ever spend this much time thinking about this building. Just literally in my dreams for the last 3.5, 4 years. I know people have spent a lot more time thinking about it. I thank everybody for the comments today and the comments when they're less polite. You guys get to petition your government. You get to tell us what you feel about the job we're doing or not doing. That's your responsibility as citizens. I feel like everybody has met that responsibility in our city by the sea. And I know that there's been just an enormous amount of effort that has gone into this building. It's personally disappointing, and I know that there are many in this room that are not sharing this feeling, but that we will not be able to submit an application by the deadline. That's personally disappointing because I feel like the amount of effort, if it was judged on effort that the city of Portsmouth put in, then we would have had a successful application. Certainly the residents, the amount of time that's went into us. So thank you for that. I wish we could have submitted an application by the deadline. I understand there's folks that are looking for more declaratory action. We have a meeting on Monday, and we'll continue to keep folks abreast of that, along with the conversations that we have with the GSA. I will maintain that it's been my goal and effort to continually keep the city of Portsmouth in the best legal and financial position when it comes to this project. We'll continue to do so. And I just want to thank again everyone that came out, and that everyone that might watch this again on Zoom, for all the effort that you've brought to it. Thank you. Wait, sir, there's not a Q&A. I'm happy to chat after.
Well, we're just asking for point of order because
Okay.
Your Honor, I think only
members.
Yeah,
there's only members that can say a point of order.
Okay, then I'll just say, we have some clarification because we in this audience really don't know what each counselor, what their opinions are about this decision. You know, we thought that today was the deadline with GSA, and we just don't get this feeling that it happened on a Saturday meeting too. You came back from your private discussion and nobody talked.
So, So there's not a, so it's not a Q&A, it's not a work session. Maybe one day we can have a work session on this. I think that if the idea that if we would feel good or bad about this decision, I am disappointed that we could not submit an application to the National Park Service, that we worked hard. I'm disappointed that the efforts in the settlement agreement were not successful into creating an application. I continue to maintain that we put ourselves in the best legal position because of the fact that when it came to the previous votes that we've made, stating facts, there was a way to end a developer agreement. We didn't take those steps to do so. We simply ended the agreement without a notice to cure, and because of that.
Your Honor, legal inquiry, should we continue talking about the previous settlement agreement?
You do have a right to know, and you will know. We're continuing to send all the documents out. I'm sorry that folks don't feel as though they've been as transparent. We called this meeting 2 hours after the meeting with the GSA in order to provide that information. So at this point, I'll wait a motion to adjourn. Or,
Your Honor, just two things. First of all, I think the mayor has no obligation to have a discussion here, but he's being generous to a fault, I think, because you want to know, and I understand that. Second, one of the speakers said, you now know your options. We don't know our options yet. The GSA will be getting back to us. And it's very important that we recognize the fact that not all the events have transpired here, and I think that's something we as a council are extremely careful about at the moment. We don't have a final determination from GSA. And I want to thank all of the participants in the Portsmouth Listen study circles about the McIntyre. And I believed very much in the community plan, and we tried to honor the input throughout this process that we got. People wanted an observation deck. People wanted active gathering space. They wanted more public benefit. They wanted less mass and density on Bow Street, and we've kept to those throughout the process. And I'm disappointed that we can't get an application in.
wait a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.